Video number 23 on the odds and ends hit and miss engine. And last week we showed you how to make a few parts. One of them was these, and these are the arms that the weights for the governor go on. And this one is finished now. This is for the other engine, and I'll show you how I made those weights first and attached them. So it's showing you this part here with two radiuses. This radius has to match the flywheel. The outer radius doesn't have to match anything. It's just there for looks, and it should be somewhere near the curvature of the flywheel. And it's saying 7/8 of an inch, but this is only actually a little over 3/4 of an inch radius, because that's as far out as I can get my forge jaw to do that, and I'll show you how I did it. But this radius is not that important. It could actually be straight across, it wouldn't matter. But this radius has to fit against the flywheel, so you want to try to keep that in pretty close. So I'll show you how I made this part. It's a piece of 3/4 inch square, 12L14. And what I did is I put it in the forge jaw and moved it out as far as I possibly could. Now this is a 6-inch forge jaw. So if you have a bigger one, maybe you can move it out just a little bit further, I don't know. But then I just did that radius. The inside radius I did by standing this up in the milling machine and just coming down on it with a end mill, a 3/4 inch end mill. Or you could use a fly cutter. So I ended up with this. Actually, first I'm going to drill the hole. So I'll have the hole in both pieces. So I'll do that first. It's showing you the hole 1/4 inch up, and what I'm going to do is drill an 1/8 inch hole in here, because these are actually an 1/8 inch in diameter. I went a little larger than what it said in the print, but I want it plenty strong. It said 5/32. I just want a 32nd larger. So what I'm going to do is mark this 1/4 inch up and in the center, and then I'll drill with a 1/8 hole down through it. That's good. That's good. So I want to make sure this is standing straight up, so I got to get my square. Okay, that's square. I'll go for a center drill. Have a little light here would probably help. I got to go in a good 1/2 inch here. We got 2/4 inch pieces plus the thickness of the saw blade. Okay, that should do it. I'm going to mark this 1/4 inch. I'll just put this in the cutoff saw and saw one off. That's the first one. Now I got to mark the second. Now that I cut one off, I'm going to reface this so it's nice and smooth on one side. Makes it easier to polish if it's pretty smooth. And it's got to be straight too. The reason I'm going to do that is because I'm going to buff this out, and I want a nice smooth finish to start with. Makes it a lot faster to buff. You have to get all the saw marks out of it so that it buffs out easy. You leave saw marks in it, or sander marks, it'll be hard to buff. So that's the way it's going to go on there. And I've got a little pocket here where I can put a piece of silver braze down in that pocket, and then when I melt it, heat it up, it'll just melt and draw right in. You want to make sure you put the side that you're going to buff out, not the rough side. That's to the top. We'll put a little flux on that. I got to square it this way, but I'm going to do that by eye, just like that. Just before the silver solder sets, I'll just make sure that it's straight. I better sand that first because it's been sitting around for a while. Just put a little sandpaper on it and clean it up. So I used silver braze on these. Okay. Now we got to get a little fleck of silver. A pair of tweezers. Let's just try it. So I'm going to heat this from the bottom and draw the solder in. Turns clear, it's just about right. There it goes. You see it suck right down in there? I'm just going to check and see that that's straight. It seems to be straight. So, let it cool off and see how it did. You can actually see where the silver went, and the flux went out to here and cleaned it, and the silver was there and it sucked all the way through, and you can see it came out on the other side. All the way around. So that's a good joint. Just sanding the silver off of it so it's easier to buff. We'll do the second one. Now, this end is silver brazed on there. That's why I put it in this vise. It causes a heat sink, and that way it can't melt the other silver joint. If I did that out in the open and didn't have a heat sink on that, it would fall apart. So I just put it in the vise and that holds it. Another thing is you want to make sure that this is on the side of that. You don't want to put it on backwards. It won't work backwards. Okay, the second one's set ready to solder. I think can't get it much straighter than that. Did that come through? Yeah, I guess it did. A little tiny bit of silver solder on there. If I leave that on there, what'll happen is it'll polish up, and then later on it'll really show because it doesn't turn color like the steel does. So I have to sand that all off. That's why you don't want to get a lot on there. Okay. So all those are done. So the next part we have to make is this. This is a little more complicated. It's not hard to do, but it's an awful lot of angles on it. And most of them don't mean anything as long as this end and that end is in relation to that hole is right. All this stuff is just cut away the extra. So here it is on the print. And it doesn't give you any angles, it just gives you dimensions. And you have to figure the angles out from that. But what I'm going to do is make some of these cuts and then locate the hole and drill it all while it's on one piece before I cut it out completely. So I got to get a piece of 1/8 inch steel to make that out of. So I'm just going to take a piece of, I think that's just cold roll steel. And I'm going to put a little bluing on it. So I'm going to take this over to the height gauge and make a few marks on it So then I can draw the angle lines. So the first line I'm going to locate is this. It's 5/64 up from here. That was I'm going to take it out of here that way. So I'm going to go up 5/64 and draw a straight line. That line doesn't go all the way to the end, so I'm going to put it like that. Then 9/32 is the top. I'm going to mark the top. It's 9/32, which is 281. Just going to go all the way across for that one. So the length of it is 1 9/16. So that's 1 5/62, 1 inch. 5/62 is right there. So now we just got 3 lines on there, but this is the end of it up here. So now I've got to measure in 13/32. 13/32. Okay. So it's pretty hard to see, but that's a very, very short angle there. And then goes all the way up to there. And it just is here. So now we've got to get this. It's where's the measure? Oh, 21/32 is the hole. That's 6/56. That's the hole. And the hole from the bottom, wow. It's 1/16 down from this bottom. So it's this is the dimension of the hole. It's 140 from the bottom. So what I'm going to do is, while this is still a square piece, I'm going to prick punch that and drill the hole, because it's a lot easier to do it than when you get it all cut out. So that calls for a number 52 drill hole. So I'm just going to spot it and drill it through. So you can see this is a lot easier to hold on to than when you got that little tiny piece. Okay, there it is with a hole in it. Now what I'm going to do is take a ruler and just put those angles on there. These back angles aren't really that important, but you just want it to look nice. You want to have this end about the right width. And then this end here comes down about this far away. And you're going to have, that's got to be, I'm going to kind of draw that on there. This is the little bulb that fits into the notch. So I'm just going to sort of fake that in there so I can see where my line goes. Now I can cut it out. See, this is the shape. As you can see, just about right. That end gets rounded. That's basically what you're going to do, is put this same profile onto that.
Go.
As you can see, I have left the lines on there and sawed away most of it. And the only two cuts I have to make now is this one and this one. So I'm going to make this one first while it's still on the solid piece, and then I'll cut it off. And what I'll do is put this over the 1-inch sander and sand up to those lines, or I can mill it also down to the lines. There it is. I'm going to take and do some sanding on it now and get it pretty much to the shape. You got to put a small end mill in here, but just to finish going up to the line on those edges. Now I'm just eyeballing the line. A good trick is to lay a thin piece of steel on here and bring it down to the line. And if you can tilt it up, you can see that's pretty close right there. You just tilt it. Okay. Now I'm going to do this line here, just a little slight angle there. Like I said before, it's not real critical. As long as it looks nice and the two ends are in the right place compared to the hole. This takes a little time, but when you go to clean it up, it looks pretty good. I could sand up to all those lines, but it wouldn't be straight across. I do it at the very finish, but a lot of times filing it works too. If you want to just put a slight finish on it, the fine file works great. So I've got some of the things straightened out. Now I'm going to go back to the sander and I'm going to show you what I do to put that on there. All I'm going to do is use a file, a chainsaw file, and hit both sides of that, and then just round the top on the sander. So if you want to make that little round end, I use a chainsaw file. And they cut real nice. I don't know if you can see that or not yet. Probably pretty hard to see. Let me get the second one on, and then I'll put it on the sander, on the sandpaper there, and let you look at it. This one's a little tougher to control it. Once you get it started, you're all set. So you should be able to see the profile there now, I think. But like I said, this isn't actually the way I do it. I just put a piece of drill rod in there, and that seems to work much easier than making this. And it's probably a little stronger, I'm not sure, but I've never had one break. So there it is, milled out and all finished. And I left a square end on here, and I've been cheating on this. Instead of making that little ball end on it, which becomes quite weak, I just drill a hole in there and put a piece of drill rod in it and silver braze it, and the drill rod will work as the point to go up into that slot. You see, I can just put a piece of drill rod on that just fits in the spool, and it seems to work very nicely. It's instead of doing that to the end of it. So before I finish these parts up, I'm going to take and make them and put them on the engine so that I can see how they fit together. So what you have to have is, you see this spool moves back and forth. And if you look down in there, can you see that finger down in there moving?
Yes.
It moves that finger, and the finger will engage with the cam and hold it from coming up. When it's this way, see that? It keeps the cam from coming up, which is holding the exhaust valve open. So we're going to go the other way, and it should clear. Whoop, it's not clearing the gear. Yeah, this one, I got to do a little bit of work with that roller before I can show you that. So what happened is this roller screw is sticking out too far. So I've got to make that roller just a tiny bit narrower and get the screw embedded in there further so that it doesn't hit the bar. So what I did was I made that roller just a little wider than it showed in the print. That was a big mistake. It should have gone by the print size. I thought wider was better, but it isn't. It's in the way. Now I gotta take it down a little bit. And now I'm gonna counterbore that screw just a little bit more, and then have to make another screw. That's plenty. So first thing I'm going to do is turn it down to the diameter of the inside diameter of the roller. That is exactly what? So we're shooting for 156 here. We've got one, just a little over 2. So we can go 10 at a time. So we're going to take off 14. So I'm going to take off 5, which is 10. And that shouldn't fit on there yet. Not quite. Oh, boy, it's close. I think I can sand that the rest of the way. Very close. Perfect fit. Perfect fit. Now I got to get the thread on there. That doesn't have to be the full distance. So what I'm doing is putting this on here. I'm going to go back, touch it, go 5/1000. Actually, I'm going to go 8/1000 and lock my stop. So that I'm going to cut this down to the thread diameter. So I don't have to go down much, less than 50/1000. So that's less than 25. That's just about it. 5/12. I mean 1/12. Now we'll put the thread on it. I've made it a little long, so I got a place to start the thread. A little cutting oil on that. Tap magic. Now I'm just going to reverse that die to get it threaded on just a little bit further. Backwards now. Yeah, it's just going to give me maybe a half a thread, I think. More. Now I'm going to part that off. All we need is the slot. There's two ways of doing a slot. Well, there's probably more than two. You could do it with a hacksaw. You can do it in the bandsaw. That's pretty rough looking. Or you can take a slitting saw in the milling machine. Or I'll show you something else here. I gotta get another collet first. But we can actually do it in the lathe. Tight. Now, cutter is ground quite thin this way. You got a very, very sharp edge on it, and it's when I put it on here, I'm going to center it on that little nub. I hope. Yep, it's pretty well centered. Lock it down. Now if I take and go across that, you see I can cut a slot in that screw. It's a little too low. I'm going to move it up. Let's try that. Down just a little. There it is. Let's see what that does. I'm just going to go in probably 4 or 5/1000 at a time, and I can cut a slot right in that screw. I'm going to cut this pretty deep, almost down to the very end of the head, which takes a minute. But this is, to me, this is easier than going over to the milling machine with some little tiny piece like this and try to center it and put the cutter in there and everything. And it takes probably a little longer to cut it, but it does a beautiful job. I'm I'm taking off, let's see, 5 here, which is 2.5 thousandths out of whack. So like I say, it takes a minute to get through there. That looks pretty good. Check it with a screwdriver. It's in there perfect.
Boy. Yep.
Makes a nice slot. A little tiny burr on there from threading it. And it doesn't want to go in. Awful hard to hold on to. Let's see if that'll go in there now. There it is. There it is. It's in there now. Now what I got to do is screw it onto the arm. Where did I put that, Jim? Lucky I have Jim around here to find things for me. So hopefully, if I tighten this up with a screwdriver, it's going to set right in there. It's a little tight, so I'm just going to put this in the chuck and run it for a minute and see if I can loosen it up. It's a tiny burr on it. Start slow. Didn't even feel it, I did. So let's see what happens now. See, now it turns freely. This mechanism, you have to set up a few things. One is the length of this. Now, when the cam is all the way down and you push that in, this has to be just a hair shorter than here. So I've got to cut quite a bit off of this one because that has to go in there and grab the cam and hold the valve open. So this part is too long, and they did that on purpose in the print so that you'd be able to adjust it. So it goes down, and this pops in, and that should be just exactly on the high lobe of the cam, and that should be able to go in there. So if you hold it, if you put the high lobe of the cam down, thusly, and you push this in, and you cut it off so it will clear right there, then it should be right. And this has to go back and forth, and the flywheel has to be out a little further. I've got the flywheel in a little too far, but that will engage with that bar sticking out there. But once you get that done, you know, this is in the slot up here. Once you get that done, you can see this is very close to that gear, but it can actually rub on it because it never goes below. And if it went below and this slid in, see, that wouldn't go up. But if you adjust things right, that will never go below there, so it stays against the gear just slightly. So the first thing I have to do is cut this off and get it to work right. And now when I get everything adjusted, I'll show it in the next video how it all turned out. So thank you very much for watching. I hope that this was clear. I know it's kind of a complicated mechanism to show you on a video, but once you put it together, I think you'll realize exactly how it works. And just remember that has to engage in that dog so that the exhaust valve stays open. Thank you very much for watching, and if you liked what you saw, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much.